Alright, so let's have a conversation, okay? So, you claim that you didn't have a home connection yet. You obviously clearly do, apparently, according to you. And I've gave you one way. I said open port 555, give me your home connection. You offered me credentials. If you gave me them, just because it's whitelisted on your home connection, I would be able to port forward because you opened a port. But that's completely irrelevant now. So, I'm going to quickly, firstly, see right here. You claim to know Debian, which is obviously Linux, uses Linux kernel, so won't we speak about that? You also claim to be a security researcher, a network pen tester, which we'll touch on that topic for you, because obviously you claim to know it. Security researcher, you can tell me what you research regarding security. I assume it's going to be network based because your bio, which if it is, then it's really irrelevant that you put it there because you already tell us what you do regarding networking, but hey, you. And
So what you saying?
So you can listen to your recording back. Sentinel security founder. Okay, cool. So, firstly, you claim to know Debian, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So, can you tell me what you use Linux for mainly?
What?
Can you tell me what you use Linux for mainly?
What do you mean?
Well, what do you mean? What do I mean? What do you use it for? Why do you use Linux? What is the point? Tell me, what do you use it
For
for?
my
You use it.
VPNs?
Okay, so you use it to configure and set up your VPNs. Okay, so
Yeah.
what do you know besides doing that with Linux?
IP tables?
But that isn't regarded to Linux. That's regarded to networking. There's
UFW?
Okay, but that's also once again a binary that's very easily here. Actually, no, yeah, let's speak on UFW. Could you tell me like what UFW actually does and how it works? So let's say I wanted to block a connection, okay, from either going out or coming in. Okay, could you tell me how UFW actually works by blocking, not the syntax, how it works?
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
only know the syntax.
You don't need to know the syntax.
I only know the syntax, I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. It's literally UFW disallow, but okay, continue. And of course, then you have to specify the certain properties such as IP, but or domain. But once I asked, okay, I didn't say specify the syntax. I said how does it work? There's a difference.
Blocks, it controls packets going in and out of the kernel.
In and out of the kernel. Okay,
Yeah.
so no. But can you tell me how it controls them? Like, how does it block them? Is what I mean.
I don't know. The fuck?
The answer is by dropping the packets. It drops the packets, but anyway. So obviously you
And
know
what
how to
happens to the packets that are
configure.
dropped, though? The packets that are dropped aren't allowed into the kernel, but the packets that are accepted allowed
Yeah,
into the kernel.
yes, but they get dropped, which is the point for disallowing. I've already said that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So my point is proven. Okay. So what was the point of saying that if that's common knowledge?
I don't know. I'm just enjoying my coke, you know.
Right. Okay. Right. Very weird. Okay. So obviously I want to get onto something that's a bit more, worthwhile. So I know you obviously know Linux well. Apparently, I don't think you do, but you probably
I
know.
don't know
You probably
Linux
know a
well.
tiny bit, but not
I know a
not.
tiny bit. I don't know loads about Linux. I'm not
That's
gonna
fine.
say
At
that
least you
I'm a
admitted that.
genius.
At least you admitted that. It takes a lot to admit something.
Okay then.
Don't you think that common kids don't admit stuff? I think that's a very big thing. There are a lot of them false claim, and then when they get clowned, they're like, "Well, I never claimed
Imagine
that."
false claiming. That's gay. Imagine doing that.
I'm false claiming. Did you say?
I said imagine false
Oh,
claiming.
no. Right, okay, so here it also says security researcher in your bio. Can you tell me what you mean by that? What do you research regarding security? I assume it's
DDoS.
networking, right? DDoS.
DDoS.
So
Yeah.
DDoS attacks, okay.
Yeah.
So you look at botnets, I assume?
Nets.
Pardon? You cut out.
Nets.
Botnets.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you look at malware at all?
Oh, where?
Yeah, malware, because obviously that can be quite a big topic, especially if we're talking about botnets, because
Oh,
even
where it
though
can be used to infect devices,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So do you look at malware analyst at all?
Really?
No, okay. So it's just botnets, okay. It says network pen tester. Would you mind telling me like how you would go around pen testing a network? Like what kind of stuff what do you mean by when you said network pen tester?
So first, I scan a network,
Mm-hmm.
obviously,
Yeah.
and the vulnerabilities, and yeah, you know.
I don't know. Would you mind elaborating?
No, bro. Obviously, I'm learning, so like I don't know a lot.
Yeah, well,
I've just started learning that.
you should put learning. The thing is like when you claim to know something, like when you say network pen test, you're claiming to know it. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle when people ask. So when you say
So
you
how do I
scan
change
for
that? I need to say that I'm learning, yeah?
yeah, but like when you say security researcher, that's that, right? That can mean multiple things. Millions of things, right? But when you
Bug
say
hunter,
networking pen
one.
tester, that's specific.
Be a bug hunter. Be a bug hunter.
You could be a bug hunter,
Be.
huh?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Security researcher can mean many
Oh yeah,
things.
no, yeah, I agree with
Right
that.
there.
Yeah, I've already said that. Yeah. Um. Also, what was I gonna get at next? Oh yeah, so obviously when you say that you scan the network for vulnerabilities and you port scan the network and scan devices on the network,
Yeah.
I assume that you do this one well actually I'm not going to type the syntax, but I assume you do an all scan on the internal network, all devices, and then once you've done that
Use
scanned the
ZenMap.
devices. I use Nmap, not ZenMap, but yes, you can use that. um, Once you found all the devices, there is a specific way to scan for vulnerabilities, which would be script equals vuln. Now, I assume you use that because other ways of looking for vulnerabilities would be kind of more difficult because you'll just be googling the version when if you done that it would give you it. So what I mean is like have you actually covered any more in depth ways of pen testing a network?
Oh,
No. Okay.
the basic testing.
Alright, 1 second, give me a sec. Yeah, I'm back. So obviously when you say that you're doing network pen testing, there's a lot more than just scanning it. You have to know a lot about the network itself, so what machines are running Windows, what machines are running Active Directory, domain controllers. Then you run tools like Responder, you look for hashes. That is very basic. That's called enumeration. To be the truth to be told, it's called enumeration by looking for ports, find devices. That's enumeration. It isn't actually exploitation or pen testing. It does come under the factor, but the actual term's enumeration. So yeah. So that's out. That's out. Now,
What do you mean?
what do you mean? What do I mean?
Investigated by the FBI. The fuck?
Yeah, that's a that's a topic for another day. I mean, we can touch on that after. I just want to get everything out of the way here. So you obviously know what RCE stands for,
Oh, code execution.
right? Okay. So if I pop up my screen here, I've wrote a very basic script, okay, for a vulnerability that leads to remote code execution. Now, obviously, there is many ways that this could occur, so I don't want you to overthink. This, as I said, basic. So we come here, we come to my local IP. We see z.php, which is obviously the page and the file type. I'm going to append cmd on the end, which, as you know, is short for command. I'm going to enter a command, and you see I'm in var.html, which is obviously code execution. So would you mind telling me how you think this happens? Knowing the language, obviously, as PHP, it isn't going to be using something like child process or something like that. Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's not using eval. So yeah, it's using
I
a
have a clue.
PHP function and nucleic. Yeah. So the code's pretty basic. It's just has system, which is a function to call system commands, and then it passes a get parameter called cmd. And that's basically passed like that, and then just ends it. So that's literally the code, and well, that happens. So I wouldn't say you know remote code execution. You just understand, well, it executes any command.
I just understand the concept. I don't understand
how it
really
does.
understand. Oh.
Okay. And regarding Linux, I mean, do you know what SCP is? That I assume so. You would, but if not, then that's fine.
Guessing it's where you transfer files because I've heard of WinSCP.
Yeah, you
I'm
can.
guessing it's something to do with transferring
Yeah,
files.
for SSH. Yeah, I assume you know that, because if you didn't, then that would be pretty bad. So that's obviously, you know basic commands like ls, rm-rf, rm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now, when you claim to know Debian, when you say that you know Linux, you're actually claiming to know how Linux operates. So if you're kind of claiming that, then you're saying that you know how the kernel works. So yeah, as I was saying, when you claim to know Debian, you're claiming to know how the kernel works and how, stuff like that, right? You see where I'm going with this? How the file system works and
Yes.
everything. So I think you have a confusion there. If you want to speak about Linux like in depth, we can.
I have a basic understanding of things, but don't know
So you know
everything
how
in
to
depth.
move around and stuff, yeah, the file system.
Yeah.
So that would be technical. When you're going to get a job, you would have to specify you either know Linux or you know how to operate around the Linux operating system. It would
Yeah.
actually be, it's pretty simple. I know how to operate Linux. You don't know how the kernel, you might know how the kernel works, but you wouldn't know, how to, maybe install a driver, right? Although that may sound simple, on Windows you just download the driver, run it. Linux is a bit more complicated than that, unfortunately, because Linux is just weird. But thankfully there's GitHub repos for that. But yeah, so I wouldn't say from now on, I suggest, because a lot of comm kids will just jump on that and be like, right, so you know how the Linux kernel works, you know this, you know that. And yeah, it wouldn't be very pleasant. So instead, if you claim to know how to operate the file system, such as cd, ls, ls-al, rm, stuff, them kind of basic binary syntax, then that would be operating. And if someone said, well, how does, the internals of the Linux kind of work, you can be like, well, I never claimed to know that. And that's a counteract for basically getting clowned, but knowing basic Linux. So I suggest you use that. Remove or put learning network enumeration would be better, unless you do plan on learning a lot more pen testing for networks. Network enthusiast. So when you say this, do you know? I mean, I assume that you will know about DHCP and basics like that, DNS, DHCP.
DNS, dynamic host control protocol.
Pardon? You cut out.
Dynamic host control protocol.
Is that what? Are you speaking about?
DHCP.
DHCP, yeah. Yeah, so you know the definition for the abbreviation, but what I mean, do you know about it, like how it works, how it allocates an IP, static allocation, dynamic allocation, lease, which obviously comes with DHCP, well, it's an option on Active Directory from what I've seen, setting up the networks, but yeah. And like, do you actually know about, you know, Cisco switches, stuff like that? Because if not, I suggest you change that to something like I'm not sure, something to do with VPNs, because obviously if that's what you do, then it isn't, even though it's networking, it's not considered networking, if that makes sense.
So what is it then?
Well, networking would be knowing how to configure a network, DHCP, you know, how DNS works to its core minimum, stuff like that. I don't know the actual term, that's why I said I don't know what it'd be called, but it would be something related to, you know, maybe you can just put VPN, you know, something with VPN, something to specify that you
Loading. The fuck?
probably your thingy. Let me turn mine off. It might be your proxy you said you was on, so. But yeah, I mean, from that, there's like my actual advice. I mean, I'm not gonna come in here and scream at you because that's just weird, and I'm not one of those people unless you try to be one. But what I suggest is you remove RCE from your name. Definitely change your PFP, by the way. I'm just saying that is cringe.
Oh so?
Well, it just looks like, you know, some guy in a hoodie with a no face, with a computer screen, with a load of little small text in the background.
Oh, you're on about my Instagram one?
Yeah. I suggest you change in the networking enthusiast to something a bit more related to VPN configurations. Network pen tester, maybe put up and coming or learning network enumeration, because if you don't plan on actually learning how to penetrate a network and gain unauthorized access, or most of the time you already have authorized access, so it might be priv or pivoting. If you can't do that, then you should definitely change that. And you said find all the devices on the network, which would actually be internally. You can't just do that without having an internal access. So yeah, you should probably change that to internal network pen tester if you're gonna claim it for whatever reason. Besides that, yeah, just remove and just say that you know how the Linux, you know, how to operate Linux, or Debian, shall I say, because that's what you said you know. So apart from that, I mean, yeah, there's not much to really touch on. There we go, I can see it now. Do you know how to filter for specific results using ifconfig?
Oh.
So you would specify the interface like ton0 or eth0, yeah, like that. And then that'll just show the information for that, which is a lot easier if you're connected. Like, if you have a load of interfaces, say you have like one, you know, say you're connected to a VPN on your own Linux machine, and then you also have your own, it would obviously be a lot easier for that. So yeah. So obviously, what do you do when you're setting these up? That may sound like an odd question, but it's obviously through OpenVPN.
Yeah.
So have you made your own configuration, or do you just use someone off GitHub and then just add your own IP tables and everything, or what do you do here?
Use one off GitHub and just add the IP tables, my own IP tables and shit.
Yeah, and I guess you obviously add them for DDoS protection and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you?
I would say it would be something to do with firewalls. Actually, I should put something to do with firewalls in my bio rather than just networking.
Yeah, because networking's a wide variety of things. Like, it's mainly to do with actually configuring networks, and it's quite it gets quite advanced at points. So, I don't personally do much networking. I know cool basics of networking.
Or people that do XDP filters and shit, and I haven't really touched on
Yeah,
XDP and EBBF filters yet.
yeah. I mean,
Just
if you're doing that kind of stuff, like if you're, as you know, obviously a VPN, it has firewalls, and networks also have firewalls. As I said, you'll see quite often that add a UFW firewall raw onto a Linux machine, and then whoever has access to that would obviously have a lower priv, so they can't just change that. But yeah. Are you intentionally putting 65508, or are you thinking that's all the ports? Because there's 65,000.
there's 1 to 65535. Like, I just do this UFW allow. Like I did do this before, once before. I just did
All ports are
allow from there to any port 1 to 65535. Yeah, I need to specify TCP or UDP, obviously.
Yeah. So regarding that, I think that obviously if you do what I said, and next time someone asks, do you know Linux or do you know Debian? That's the reason I was asking in such a way, because when you said yes, I knew that if I wanted to, I could come in here, flashcard you on the internals, and well, obviously you'd be clueless. So just say that you know how to operate it, and if they ask for an elaboration, say I know how to move around, and I know how to use certain
Move
binaries.
directories.
Yeah, well, don't say that, because that sounds like you.
Moving around Linux.
Yeah, how to operate the file system, and how to use and utilize certain binaries. If they ask you if you don't know about grep, because they might just be like, oh, you claim to know binary, so do you know about grep, or do you know about ifconfig, or whatever? I don't know what skids ask these days. They have this ego of asking random stuff. But that's why I asked on everything that you claimed or knew. So yeah. Regarding that, I mean, who knows how to put an API in a keybot?
What?
Oh, in the group, in that server, someone was asking how to put an API, how to add an API into a keybot. Fucking hell.
This is what the com is. Sorry to break it to you, but
I think we've been in two different sides of the comms. I've had a lot more intellect people that don't do botnets actually do what they know and they're pretty decent at. So
It's
yeah.
probably why I still fuck with people that are dumb and do the old stuff like botnets and shit. Like,
Mm.
maybe need to stop hanging around with them type of people.
It will get you a lot further. I mean, I'm done with the com now. I mean, yeah, I still know the people, but do I actually socialize and talk with them? No. I
I
mean, it's
believe
just
these
what it is.
people are still going on about the bleach incident. Like, that was some time ago.
I didn't
That's
even
never
know
gonna
it
go away.
happened until I got told by what was his name? I forgot his fucking name. He told me like 6
Weaponizing.
months ago. Nah, it was
No
Dimitri.
ploy.
I do, yeah, he's a retard.
It was the one that extorted me into drinking bleach. So, I can't really call him a retard, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he done what he done. I mean, but I think for a
OPSEC was pretty
while,
retarded back in the day. My OPSEC was pretty retarded. It was all out there. Like a retard, I didn't change anything. I was untouchable, and I got taught a lesson, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I mean, once again, you're doing it again, and you may think you're not gonna get shit on, but it happened last time, and just because you've, deleted any public social medias, it doesn't mean, or moved houses or whatever you claim to have done, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily, you know, untouchable.
I mean, you get followed by the government, so I'm not going to say I'm untouchable because
Exactly. I mean,
the government follow you about.
I say that I'm undoxable by any people because I'm very, 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 very confident I am. But I've been proven not to be undoxable by everyone because I got raided last year. So, well, 2 years ago actually, 2020. It's now 2022. So I don't claim that, and the people that claim they're undoxable by the government just haven't been, had a reason to be looked at by the government. They're still documented, but not, had a reason to be, caught or anything. So yeah.